That's the only way that I can start this episode. Welcome to Bragging Rights, episode 20. Oh, you're getting dressed, are you, Craig?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're getting
And just in case you boys have forgot what it looks like, here's what we prepared earlier.
For God's sake.
Raiding through the kitchen cupboards for that, did you? Bit of tin foil.
I bought that specifically.
Aluminium
I took
foil.
that off the recycle bin and I bought that from Boys' earlier.
Do you know you've got a microphone?
Oh yeah.
He's all flustered and excited, isn't he?
My heart's racing.
We're still on Cov now.
I've got to a point since Saturday where I've stopped wearing my Apple Watch because I've got the podcast Twitter and Instagram and all that on my phone.
Cardiac arrest.
It was just constant. Hull KR have posted. Hull KR have posted. Hull KR, and I was just like, look, you know, that you start off and you're just like, oh, my watch is going. I'm popular.
Our social media team is working to him overtime.
Speaking of the media, did anybody see the ad? Oh, there you go. That's it. Now we're done.
Falling down. There's your chances for the rest of the
That's
season.
Yeah. The admin guy at the deck at full time. When
Yes,
they all ran on
yes,
celebrating, the admin guy just went whoop straight on his ass.
It was very, very well.
Didn't have the correct footwear on for that pitch,
He
did
definitely did not know. What was that now? Oh, it's all coming out.
God. For those that are listening, just tune in on YouTube because Josh has got a little flip chart on the desk and you really need to just watch it. So, yeah, put your Spotify away and get on YouTube.
Well, for those who are driving and can't,
Don't
just go onto YouTube. Josh has flipped it over and it says, days since a major
Look
trophy.
how proud he is.
Can we
Do you
get
know
on?
what? Do you know what's really going to what I'm really going to enjoy about it?
When you flip over next time.
Well, of course, because that is not the last one. But Hull fans that don't like me, who might have thought I was okay until this, they'll just immediately go, "We're still in your heads. We're still in your heads." And I was like, "Amazing, because that's a bite." So before you write your YouTube comments and before you get on Twitter and say we still live rent-free in your head is your favourite thing, just remember that that's my 1-0 to you the moment you start complaining. Do you want to know what number it is? I can show you if you want.
Go on then, yeah.
What day are we on now?
Are you...
Oh, there we go. Oh.
2,845. We are recording on Tuesday, the 10th of June. Are you the guy behind the new Twitter?
I can't confirm or deny. No, for anyone who hasn't seen that, obviously the days since a major trophy, the actual Twitter handle was days since major,
yeah.
And they immediately took it down after Rovers won.
Can I give an Hull fan's perspective on that?
Yes.
Really disappointed, and I think whoever was behind that has missed a trick, and I just think...
It would have been funny, and I think both sides would have laughed if it had just clicked over to 1.
Brooks' dummy fell out, didn't it?
If it had just gone the next day, just posted 1, and then just never posted again, you know, just leave it, you know, and then maybe pick it up in 10 years when you get to the point where you've still not won another trophy, if that happens. But the fact that it just got deleted straight after, I'm just like, oh no, you've made every single LSC fan look like a dick now.
And then it's immediately replaced with one about FC, which is just hilarious. And I think I liked your reply, Jimmy, just to let everybody, the listeners and the viewers, know that you'd said it doesn't bother you. But if in 5 years this clock's still going, it will bother you.
Yeah,
I was like,
I
that's
replied
fair.
in the group chat, and I was like, right now it's just funny because it's 2017. It's not that long ago for us as teams to go without winning. It is what it is. Like, yeah, some have gone longer.
40 years, is it?
But if that's still ticking in 5 years, I'm going to start getting properly done. So anyway, we've completely missed the intro. We do have to mention that Bragging Rights sponsored by Comscaff and recorded in Tribal. If you can tell, it's a green screen, but it's still Tribal because they're still backers. So we like to put the green screen up.
And in fact, as much we like our sponsor, we're actually going to Tribal after this tonight.
We are going to Tribal after this. So
we don't just preach it, we live it as well.
We do. So the first section's about Rovers, believe it or not.
Why is that?
We didn't play. So we had a bye week.
No, we had a little breakfast out at Garbutt's.
Yeah, we did.
And that concludes the FC section. So,
Oh, no. We did a training session with our good friend, Mr. Ashurst, at Graft House.
yeah, and injured another one of your players.
We'll get onto that.
No.
Don't bite.
We'll get onto that.
Yeah.
He is a Rovers fan, though. We can blame him.
Let's get on to what really matters.
Go on, then. So, yeah.
Beat to it. I think leading into the game, obviously, we all knew it was going to be a totally different game to we did as a 4, especially, and probably a 5, but I'd seen some people leading into the game going, we hammered them a couple of weeks ago, we'll hammer them again. And for me, it's like, it's a final. Like, you can't, they've got players back, it's different scenario, it was a different everything, basically, and people going, oh, we'll hammer them. And, nah, it's just wrong for me. Like, I knew it was going to be a different game.
100%. I can't disagree with any of that. I think this goes without saying, but I will mention it anyways. This was the worst and the most nervous I've ever felt before a Rovers game in my memory. I think it was last week when I was explaining that the league game felt wrong 2 years ago. It just felt like our luck could run out with beating Wigan in the semi, and that is how I felt, and obviously I was heartbroken afterwards. I felt my heart versus head in the Wigan grand final last year was that we wasn't good enough to beat Wigan. We'd need something special, even though I know that contradicts my point that I always make about anything can happen in one game. But this game, it just truly felt like that chance. And, I drove down there, we got sorted, we got to the stadium, and by the time I was in the fan zone outside, even though it was so nice chatting to people, friends, fans of the pod, shout out to everyone that I saw there around Wembley as well. We'll shout out you later anyways, because I saw so many people over the weekend. But,
Same with me, yeah.
But I even felt myself quieting in them, which is unusual for me. I found it hard to speak to people and to even engage in good conversation with people that I've known for years, all my life. It was just nerves, stomach, going, and I needed it to be over with. In that, sounds awful, doesn't it? But it was horrible.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very tight, tense, proper game of rugby league, wasn't it? It was one of those. It reminded me a little bit of the Wigan Saints grand final a couple of years ago that they played at the Circle over in the West of Hull, where it was you didn't know who was going to win. And sorry, I've just had instructions. Oh, I can stay on that.
This is what happens when Susan gets involved in the podcast.
He's right. He's right, though.
Don't need to see it. You just need to hear it. You don't need to see it. But yeah, it reminded me very much of that, and you didn't know which way it was going to go. Both sides were putting absolutely everything into it, and yeah, it was just one of those. And luckily, we dug in right till the end. We showed that grit and determination that we've only really seen a couple of times from others, because a lot of our games have been done and dusted by 50, 60 minutes, especially this season. I think there's really the Leeds game where we had to come from behind, where we had to show that grit and determination again. And obviously there's been a couple, the derbies for example and stuff, but it's just nice to see a different side to us as well, that we can do that, we can play so poorly, as un-Rovers like as we did.
You can say poorly.
But I don't think Rovers did play poorly, so that's the point here.
Going forward, you did.
There is, well, before I start, just a little insight on that, just to throw perhaps some perspectives that aren't Rovers fans. So obviously the majority of conversation I had was Rovers fans over the weekend, and initially after the game the feeling was the better team lost, and then that's changed as the weekend's gone on to, well, actually, if they were that much better, why didn't we score any tries? Apart from the one that was a crazy deflection off Jezzy's boot that wasn't supposed to go there.
Great kick by Jez.
Right? and all the, so it changed. It was just in that relief you'd see a lot of people online being like, yeah, that's fair. And as I spoke to people around Wembley, and when I've spoke to people that I know in the days since that aren't Rovers or Hull fans.
Days since.
And going against what some of the commentators and some of the were saying about it's not a classic, the rain's been hammering in, it's not one to watch back, and then the Rovers players at the parade on Sunday just mentioned a few times about that's not who we are, and we're a bit gutted about the penalties and the performance, but it doesn't matter. Actually, speaking to some Leeds fans and some other fans around Wembley, they thought it was a bit of a classic. They thought it was thrilling to watch such a close, tight game that went down to the wire.
It was a
No pun intended.
It was a game for the purist, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I loved it. As a game, I absolutely loved how close it was. It was a proper arm wrestle. Two teams just absolutely hammering each other. The skill on show wasn't great.
Which you're not always going to get in wet weather.
When I say skill, I mean the flashy players, all that type of stuff. But as a spectacle, it was a brilliant game just to watch. So I disagree with them who says it wasn't a good spectacle, because I thought it was.
As I said in the group, got one of many bites from Craig with this comment.
I was very emotional this weekend.
And it was, I think it was said at half time, where I said, my stomach's in knots watching this.
I thought you was being sarcastic. So
no, obviously, because I wanted Warrington to win, and I desperately didn't want Rovers to win. So I was very nervous about which way this game was going to go. And like Dean said, it was one for the purists. I very much enjoyed it. I think as a game, it was just two teams going at each other. There weren't a lot of skill. I think the only player that stood out for me in terms of trying things a bit against the weather was Dufty. The only one that could stand out for me that actually thought, I don't care if it's raining. But he always does that. He always tries and plays above his stature and against the conditions. No one else tried doing it. Everyone else remained quite smart in terms of, it's raining, let's not dick about.
Yeah, it was a bit edgy, wasn't it? Because I thought on my first watch back, of which there will be hundreds, I'll
just stick to the highlights.
Yeah,
Can't do the full game.
I actually felt that when you're watching it, all right, we didn't get over the line where we probably would expect to. We didn't make some smart choices at times, but we still got onto their line and got into their territory, despite Sneed's amazing kicking. We had chances, we made breaks, we made more metres than them overall.
We made one break, and that was Whitbread in the second half.
Ooh, talk about calling someone out live.
All right, well, it depends on your definition of that. When you're saying about breaks, I mean, like Whitbread going through, that's fine, that's a clean break. But you've got Budgie going up and catching the ball in the corner and goes through.
Right, okay,
so breaks then, right? The point being is...
Don't fall out after the weekend you've had.
We would expect moments like that we would score. You know, or times when we've made it down onto their line after being pinned by amazing kicks from Sneed. We've managed to march up the field and get into their 20 or 30. The Rovers that we've seen all this year have managed to then either score there or get the repeat set or score on the next set, and that didn't happen. That's what made it such an entertaining game, because you kept thinking, I felt, particularly in the first half, that Rovers were going to get that try. Their try was against the run of play for me in a very even matched first half that really you have to give it to Wire because they end up going to the sheds up. But I felt we was very evenly matched and you could have given it either way. And then Wire, everything they threw at us throughout the entire game, the amount of times Campton on the line, the amount of repeat sets they had, the amount of times they couldn't get their attacking shape properly and come into us and we defended it, made it that arm wrestle that made it a fascinating game to watch. And watching it back, it's still nerve-wracking now. You still can't understand how there isn't more points. So that's why I know that's been a 5-minute segue away from what was on about, but it brings us back to, I do think it is a bit of a classic in that way, and it is a game to watch back for the purists.
It was certainly easier to watch it back than it was to actually watch it live, wasn't it? That's for certain. It seems to fly by, but yeah, I said in the group, and I think Dean, I think you actually both did, you and Jimmy, came back, and I said it felt like Warrington was so far on top, and then you guys both said no, it's very even. And then when I watched it back, which is what I've wrote here, it did come across as very even. So obviously,
it did feel even. For all the pressure that Warrington had, I never thought they'd score again. I thought your defence did what it needed to do. I think the lack of Warrington having a 1, 6 and 7 that had played together for large parts of this season went against them. You defended what you needed to defend. They didn't throw what could have been thrown at you. Conditions could have helped that. Your good defence, what it normally is, contributed to that as well. But I just felt, and I said it in the group as well, getting into the last 10, 15 minutes, I felt Wire would tire. And I think not as much as I thought they would, but they did start to, dropping off a few tackles. Whitbread made that break, and you just felt the tide in such a close game the tide slightly turning towards you, and that's why I wasn't surprised you did nick it. Nick it is the right word. I don't know.
When Davies' try was given, if it hadn't have been given, you can't. I know this sounds like rubbish, you can't say, but I felt like something special was going to happen. I was nervous, but
you would have got the dropout.
We'd have got the dropout, and you just felt like something was coming.
It was coming. You could just feel that tide just slightly turning.
We'll never know, but it felt like that. And there was a couple of things looking back on the game that I'd said last week that came into fruition. Probably the only two things against what we felt the game would go like, and many people did, and it didn't play out like that. There was only two things. One of them was I'd said, Dufty is guaranteed an error, right? And it was his error, right, which then led to us being camped in their half, which then led to the high tackle, which gave us our first 2 points, right? He's good for him, right? Now, you compare that to the Budgie one, who was immense under the high ball. Like, that one knock-on doesn't define that, but if we lost, it could have done. But that one knock-on was a horrible spiralling ball in that weather. And other than that, he was one of our best players. I thought he was immense at challenging Sneed's kicks and what they were coming down at. And then the other thing that I'd said last week, and it's nuts to think about it this way, but said about our defence this year. So if you can keep a team to 1 or 2 tries, you've got a good chance of beating just about every team in this league. And that came into fruition. Doesn't matter how it played about after that. That's all they got was 1 try. And that's all that mattered to us in the end, because that's all we had to beat.
Yeah, you mentioned the tries there, and Dean just said that about they didn't really throw anything at us, and Jimmy went once. I wonder if it was the same one that I'm thinking of. It was in the second half, and the ball went on the ground to Lindop. No, not Lindop. Fuelis. Anyways, the one I'm thinking of is it went on the ground to Fuelis, and rather than going down the wing and trying to go for the corner, it come back inside where all the defenders were still sort of scrambling across. So I feel if he'd had his day back, or that moment back, he'd probably tried to go for the corner.
I think he'd change another moment before that one, though, wouldn't you?
Well, possibly, but...
Man was when Sneed nearly snuck in under the sticks.
That was a try-save and tackle from Minchella, by the way. So, yes, he did.
Tackle try-save and tackle by about 3 players. But I was watching it, and Rach even did like a similar thing. I just went... Like, I had to like catch my breath, and then I was like, oh, for God's sake, like, just let him through.
That felt like one of them iconic sporting moments. Like, it would have to have been him. Like,
if
in front of the post as well. It was him, and it was like the sort of desire and just that determination from us to stop him. All right, it's Sneed. I get that he's not still the quickest player, but the weather, the rain, he slipped through. And he is almost at the line. And it's a game of inches at times, and that could have easily gone the other way, where he just gets that extra 2 feet and he's over. And that could have been a nail in a coffin for us. And
it would have been, wouldn't it? Like, if he'd have scored that, I think it was like the 74th, 75th
on the basis of
minute
play,
like that.
yeah, that would have been game, set and match, I believe.
Again, you say that, but not long before that, Sue would have, in my opinion, 9 times out of 10 scored.
Well, we'll be talking about him later.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah.
Pig.
The kick through, hit the post pad
off Jez's kick.
Was it Jez's kick, which we've done 5-10 times this season. We've seen it where they're expecting him to run, but he's equally adept at running through and dotting the ball down. The ball hit the post pad. There wasn't another Warrington player there until it bounced back in the other direction.
It was one of them where kickers are now, we spoke about this earlier on in the season, they're aiming for the post. It was the one time you did not want that ball to hit the post because it would have fallen
straight into Sue's hand. It was Jesse Sue, yeah. But yeah, that was, so it's those, I say little moments in the game, but they were massive moments, because you're thinking, was that our one chance? And obviously we got another chance a bit later on, but in that moment you're thinking, was that our one chance?
For me, just with how nerve-wracking it was, I didn't think like that watching the game. I more felt at the big moments that came from Wire, obviously particularly from Sneed, I think that goes without saying. There were moments where Sneed did something phenomenal with his kicking game that made me go, this is the end. Like his 20-40 kick.
That was unbelievable.
Like,
It was almost a 2020.
it was like
wasn't
when he's kicking like that. And don't get me wrong, we found out in the second half that the wind was quite big there.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, because you see how big Mikey's went as well.
Yeah, where he put his foot on the line, it was the width of a dog's dick away from being a 40. It was. I noticed it at the
Yes,
time.
he put his. He
It
was,
was like his
literally
big
that.
toe
Yeah.
was on the line, and it went out on the 10 or whatever.
But
I've
that's
got
how I
some-
saw it. Moments like that, more like
On
I
the
felt
lines of
they
the
were going to be
line.
that was the end. Like the Sneed break, that kick, things like that, where you thought this is it's not it isn't going our way. Rather than seeing the little chances like the kick
And I
that we
could
had that we
see.
missed.
I can get that from your point of view in the stadium. You've got a player having an absolute weldy in them conditions. How you feel at that point is, yeah, this ain't going to be all day. He's just pinning us round, turning us round, and making us have to work at the full length.
Like,
Yeah,
I've bagged on him many times, as you all know, and Jimmy never lets me forget.
I think you put in the group. Sneed's been phenomenal.
I said
Something like
effing playable
Oh, is that
was
what
my
you said?
exact words. Obviously, I've bagged on him, and that's twice. It's threw me off now. Yeah, so I've bagged on him a lot on Sneed. Like, if his pack's not there, he goes missing. On Saturday, he didn't. He stood up and he took that game by the scruff of the neck, and I put it in here. I don't know if I almost put it in the group. He did to us what we've been doing to a lot of teams this season. We've been getting into the lead, and then we've just been turning them around, pinning them in their own 10, suffocating them, strangulating them, not giving them any territory or field position. And Sneed did that to us, and it was an absolute masterclass. So I've got to give credit where it's due.
Credit to his defensive unit behind him as well, because it's not just down to him to. Yes, it's down to him to pin you to get the kicks down there, but
It's only as good as a chase.
exactly. And credit to where you got to give him a bit of credit for a team that's been patched up for the last 2 or 3 months. They turned up with a game plan. The conditions, I feel, helped them achieve that game plan. It was a leveler. I really do feel it was. But yeah, we have to be sensible here and give credit to Wire and the game plan that bared yourself from, because for 78 minutes it worked like a charm for him. They couldn't see it on
77 minutes and 10 seconds.
So I want Jimmy to say what he was going to say about this, but my input
Moments
on
passed.
Sorry, mate. I was trying to tell him to stop. Jake tried. My input on this was there's nothing to take away from Sneed. It was the deserving Todd Trophy winner. He was phenomenal. He played amazing. What Wire fell down with, and this again isn't really their fault, but him sitting back and doing all that, they wanted Williams to roam a bit more. And Williams himself had 5 or 6 half breaks. And for a player who I know will get a little bit of negative attention from yourselves and will probably join in a bit, he was stopped by May. So the problems with May going forward and his attacking flair still exist at times, but defensively, which I've always rated him for the last year and a half, was phenomenal.
There's no taking away from his defensive play.
Williams almost disappeared in that game. And a big part of that was he only had a few half breaks, and it was May nearly every time that shut him down. May had his number. He had a job to do, and it was Williams. We couldn't get near Sneed. Mikey was getting hammered every time he kicked the ball.
Even when we
get
tried to
Sneed.
get near him, we still couldn't.
But
On
that
the flip
helped us.
side of that, you've got to give credit to Warrington. I don't want to sound like because I hate Warrington as well, but
as much,
Warrington
though.
did a great job in shutting down Mikey in the game he likes to play, especially them short side players.
I got very worried a few times that the referee, who we'll speak about, might pull Warrington up for, them stupid, he's kicked the ball and then you've tackled him even though it was half a millisecond bloody late. I thought he was going to pull him up, but that's how well Warrington were doing in terms of putting pressure on him. Every time he kicked the ball, there was a Warrington player there.
And look, I think we're quite sorry, but I think we're quite guilty of doing this. We'll say we'll pick up on something later on and not come back to it. We'll speak about the refs now then while it's on the subject of it. A part of that is a well-refed game. And I just said to you guys before this, I think if you compare the game on Saturday, the way it was refed to most Super League games, it was actually poorly refed. It allowed too much to go on. It allowed too many offsides. It allowed too many potential high shots to go unpunished. What it did allow, though, much in the style of what we see in State of Origin games, is free-flowing rugby. Yeah. And in conditions like that, it was extra important so you could end up with a good game.
That's how I want to see a game refed.
Yeah, 100%. If there's stuff that happens in a game where you say offside, yeah, fair enough, you can't get that, but eye shots and all that sort of stuff, I think he was sensible with him. I think he was like, oh, be careful. There was one of them. was it Warrior Hargreaves that twatted Vaughan in the face while Vaughan was pretty much on the floor because he'd slipped? And he just said the sensible thing. He says, look, just try and be careful. I know he's slipped. Just try and be careful. It's the sensible thing to do. But I've seen players yellow carded for that.
The problem there is nothing Jared can do because he is lower in height and it's the two biggest forwards on the field on the opposition teams. So Jared's going to hit him and he's going to hit him about chest height, right? Hoping he can whack him one, he can knock the ball out, right? And Vaughan has slipped that split second before, so he's copped one in the face. Yeah. Now, amazing to see the game play on because that's the game we love. But that inconsistency once again, where you're thinking, well, actually, I've seen so many players be binned and then pick up points for that, and then it wasn't even cited afterwards.
No, was it Oughton last year at Cass or the year before, where he got sent off for pretty much exactly the same thing? And I just look at it and I think that's the right way to ref that situation. I just have to give massive credit to the ref. I think he should be knighted for that performance because it just, like you said, it just let the game go, and that's what we want. I would rather see that every single week. Let the match review panel deal with the fact that head eyes and stuff like that. As long as he's not killed anyone, just let it crack on.
Yeah, well, that's a different point, isn't it? Because the review panel's just an absolute joke this week.
Well, the fact that they didn't even cite Warrior Hargreaves for his absolutely disgusting hit on Ty at the final whistle.
What I don't understand is they've not picked that up, right?
No.
Should be cited. What Jared's done's really naughty.
Yeah,
so they've picked up Budgie, and he's got points in a fan for it, which I just don't understand. The Warrington play, it's a great attacking kick from Mikey into the corner. The Warrington plays 2 foot from the sideline. He makes himself as small as possible, and he gets clipped a little bit. Penalty sufficient. But Warrington player
what he got his points for?
Yeah, Warrington player tries to.
There was nothing he could have done.
Warrington player tries to milk it as well. Pretends it's hair. Another thing we hate. So you've got
this one.
So you've got that one, right? Then I know you two have had your long-standing spat over the last 24 hours about bachelors.
That's why I put my mic down.
Yeah.
For those who are wondering.
I have 2 views on this. I have 2, but go on.
Say that bachelors, for those that aren't aware, what he got cited and a fine and points for is because he doesn't lower height. It's a head-to-head clash against Dufty. Dufty obviously stays down, and that's where his fractured eye socket comes from. And the argument between these two is, where's he supposed to go? Jimmy's is, he's supposed to make a better attempt at a tackle, which is lowering your height.
No. So, I've watched it again. But I watched it with these, and I fully agree with Craig. These red and white glasses that
just
you can
so
wear
knows,
like that.
These are what Jimmy wore to the parade on Sunday to celebrate.
But no, I watched it again, and I watched it through these, and I think it's disgusting. I don't think he should got any points. I think he did a perfect attempt, and the match review panel have cocked up.
Bite your tongue.
Moving swiftly.
I'll move on before it's my point.
But I'll
being
take
there
these
is-
back off, and I think that Bachelor has made
So
no attempt to lower his height whatsoever, and he had perfect.
the
amount
point
of time.
about this is, though, it's fine to cite them. If that's what you want to do and we don't agree, that's fine. What you can't tell me then is that Jared don't get cited for his 2, the late one on Ty and the one we just spoke about on Vaughan, and the one that gives us our first 2 points is deliberately high on Mikey.
Yeah, because he's already tackled, didn't he? And
Right,
then he comes in
he's held up, so you've got the chance to lower. And yet, what they're almost saying is, that's okay because you got 2 points and a penalty from it.
The inconsistency again.
Even in a game like this where we're praising the ref and then we're trying to praise the sport for how good it is, we've got this rubbish. And then obviously you've got the biggest incident, which let's spend 60 seconds on. I'll say what it is you guys get your inputs in. We've got Jesse Sue spitting incident, has to go to the panel to plead his case.
So we might, whilst recording, we might find out
we'll get
result
Susan
of
on
that. So yeah, Susan just said there's nothing on it yet. During the game, so Craig sent a text during the game and said, "What was that all about?" And I said, I just put spit in. Thulis complained about Sue. No replay. And then
As that messages were going in,
yeah,
the replay
and then
come on.
then the replay came on, and I was like, "Nah, that's nothing. That's ridiculous. That's pettiness by Thulis. There's nothing in it." But then
There's another angle.
And now I'm concerned that there was a bit of intent behind it, potentially. And even if there isn't, I think the angle makes it look real bad.
The angle makes it look bad.
And I can very much imagine that Sue might get banned.
He's gonna. The odds are
6
really.
minimum, innit?
Yeah, 6
If he's found guilty.
The odds are in his favour. I don't think.
They're
but
not.
Especially if he turns
just
off
before you go on,
hanging out.
I don't think it was deliberate.
That's what I was
personally.
just going to say.
But why you face? Was it a scrum? There was waiting for a scrum or you
was
hit
a-
the ball.
it was
Why
injury,
not?
I think,
Why
yeah.
not turn away and spit where there's
So-
open ground?
Right. You watch the game, you'll see dozens of players spitting. If you watch
Yeah.
around, they're always clearing the throat and spitting fan. It's happened. It's not the right thing. It has hit the player. Sue isn't looking at him. He could have done better. All we can do, I think, as a team is, it's a bit like an accidental head high that really injures someone and you get the ban for it. If he gets a ban, I don't think it was on purpose. We'll take it on the chin. That's all we can do. Because I don't think there's enough there to say you deliberately spit on someone. He doesn't have a record shows like that. But if there still has to be a punishment because you have spit on someone, let's take it on the chin and move on.
I mentioned it earlier in the group between the 4 of us and 5 of us. Sorry, and Dean just said it. Then there's no effort needed from Sue to completely turn his head away from that group of Warrington players that were stood in front of him and just spit on the grass. It takes no effort at all, and that will go against him, in my opinion. I still think it's up in the air as to whether he'll get a ban or not, but I think that second angle from behind,
It's quite damning. That
it looks like he's just looking square on at Thewlis and they're having words, and then he just lowers his head and spits towards his abdomen sort of area.
Yeah, I
Whereas
think
the
that pretty
first
much
view on the
We'll see.
game, first view on
see.
the game looked like he just spat on the floor.
We'll
Didn't
see what they bring out, but it's one of them.
Paul Cullen didn't take the loss very well, did he?
Well, Cullen
That's
didn't
what
take
it
the
was.
loss well at all, so we'll definitely get a 24-game match ban for that. And
It's a match review panel, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
He's
a
not on
tribunal,
it,
but I'm
so-
on about for the other 2.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
So
yeah,
should we, with time, should we move on to the happy parts of it then? Because we've gone a little bit negative on some of the stuff, but it still was.
Well, it's all talking points, isn't
Unreal.
it? Like, speaking of sad things, I just want to touch on. I mean, it's sad from his point of view. Luke Yates, he's played in 3 finals now, and he's lost all 3 finals by a total margin of 5 points.
Wow.
5 points over 3 finals. Talk
Wow.
about unlucky. And let's be honest, I mean, I don't like Warrington particularly, but he's a great player. I really rate Luke Yates. But
You got
to-
a thing for him, haven't you?
I've got a bit of a thing for it. I
Bit of a
went and
man
watched
crush.
him when he played for the Combined Nations versus England at Warrington when he was still a Huddersfield player, and he was banging England all over the field that night. You could hear the tackles, and the only other player I've heard tackle like that is Ellis. And he was just smash every single tackle he went into, and I'd love him if he came to Hull FC, like, you know.
That's what I mean. I really rate him as a player, but at what point do you start to feel like you're cursed?
And Susan's just raised what I'd noted before as well. It is awful, and it's such a close margin makes it a bit worse. But Sean Lunt went to 5 finals and lost them all. There are players out there. This is sport. This is rugby. Tom Davies pulled out of their final for Wigan in 2017, the night before.
I think it was in the warm-up. I think Marshall got the nod in the warm-up. I think it was.
Illness, wasn't it? I think it was the night before.
And he missed that, and then this could be his only opportunity. It's, you know, I'd read a real good article about.
He would have lost it with Catalan in the final a few years ago, wouldn't he? Davis as well. So against
Yeah,
so he lost that as well. Yeah,
You know, there was so many surprising things. Like, but it's Joe Burgess's first win of anything.
what?
Yeah.
That's his first trophy.
major bit of silverware, yeah. Major silverware.
Never won anything at Wigan.
No, because then he went to Roosters. So there's all these things that have come out since, you know. And just to point on Mickey Mack, because that was a big talking point before the game they did play. He sort of came out and had said, the surgeon said no, but I felt good enough. And also, you're not guaranteed to go to a grand final.
That is
And I know I'm retiring at the end of this year. And so at the end of the day, this could have been my final chance. And I came in to do a job. And if I'd have busted my arm up in that game, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah.
I was already finishing at the end. And it is what it is, isn't it?
He said
It's
he's
just,
going to have a rest now. Like
They've
gonna
gone back into rehab.
back into
apparently.
rehab
Yeah,
for
yeah.
his injury, yeah. But he came on, he did a job for us for 28 minutes. We knew Warrington were going to come out firing, and he was part of being able to suppress that. Because they did, and the intent was there from that first tackle. Sue ran the ball in. I ain't seen anybody push Sue back like they did.
It gave the ability for Jez to come on and perform and not worried about getting tired out at the end of a game. And at the end of the game, look what happened. You fought till the end and got the win. So that was
Jez at 100%
yeah.
for, because he went off after 27 minutes, did Mickey Mack. So
Yeah.
for just over 50
27,
minutes,
not 28, my bad.
he's unreal.
Yeah.
Compared to having him do 100.
But he's played 80%
for 80,
recently. So.
Um,
go on.
No, I was going to say, but because the only thing before we talk player, because I know timing and we should wrap up in the next 5-10, shouldn't we? The only player that I don't think the hate is as bad as it has been in the past. I think anybody that slags Mikey Lewis off for the performance you saw is severely lacking in rugby knowledge. What he did on that field on Saturday was he led our team. He was left out to dry by May at times, who attacking-wise didn't do a lot for most of the game. I know he did get the kick at the end that went in and we scored from, fine. But Lewis was driving it all. He had a really mature performance. He kicked really well. It's just that Sneed had a 9.9 out of 10 kicking game that day. You look at some of the things Mikey did on the kicks, some of the positions we put them in, the drop out that nearly went the full length of the field and ended up going out of touch.
The almost 40-20.
There's so much he did well.
And I don't want to. Sorry, I'm butting in with him again. I got there first.
Let Jimmy
Should
talk,
hold the
man.
mic in your hand. One thing that Mikey does need praising on, and you might was going to touch on it or not, the biggest improvement in his game this year, and ultimately it won you the cup, was his kicking game.
Oh,
He's
mate.
off the tee. Now, last year Mikey wouldn't have kicked that. Guaranteed, I don't think he's just because his kicking was way off. I don't know what he's changed in his kicking style, or he's worked with someone to maybe calm him down because he was a bit rash at doing it. I don't know, but
from Doncaster Rugby
he's what he's done to become a kicker, because he's done it for most part of the season. I know Morg's taken over lately, but early part of the season he was still pinging them over. So a little bit of credit has got to go to Mikey for that.
But it's not like he had a poor game and in the 77th minute he had a conversion which was way out wide. It was out wide, and he just made that kick. He was still leading us around that pitch alongside some big performances from Minchella and Whitbread and other players, don't get me wrong, but for people that are underrated from that performance, he had a really good game. It's just because you didn't see a couple of the breaks you normally see, and because we wasn't clicking in attack where he has that many assists.
He won that game.
It wasn't that type of game.
Was he your best player in your opinion?
On Saturday?
Yeah.
He's in my top 3.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's not my top player, but
because
he's my top 3.
there is something, and I don't know if it was mentioned in the group, that I think is just mind-boggling. Because even if you say he was your best player, I don't think he was anywhere near where Sneed was. 31 out of 37 of the journalists that vote for the Lance Todd voted for Sneed.
It was me that put that in, by the way.
The other 6 voted for Mikey. And I don't think he was even. I don't think he was your best player, and I don't think he was anywhere near Mark. I don't think anyone was anywhere near Mark Sneed. I think it should have been I don't know if it's happened before, but if it hasn't, I think it should have been the first ever clean slate, because Sneed stood out above everyone.
Rob Burrow got the clean slate. I spoke about this the other week.
All right, fair.
That, do you know the
grand final.
Yeah, but he'd done it in the Challenge Cup, I think, that year. But anyways, yeah, I think it has happened, is my point.
And that's not me. I'm not coming out and trying to dig on Mikey at this point. It's just a good point from because you'd mentioned Mikey. I can't see where that mindset came from, and I'd love to know which 6 journalists it was.
The only 3 things that I can possibly think that it's because that stood out to them is the dropout, the attempted 40-20, and the conversion at the end. They're the only 3 things to me that stand out from Mikey's game at weekend.
You don't win a man of the match for...
No, you don't, but that's what I'm saying. Like, is that what they've gone off?
Sometimes when boxing judges get it a bit wrong, right? It was a battle between the two and Sneed played better, right? But at the same time, Rovers won. Mikey nailed the match-winning conversion. He was involved in everything for us going forward, and he still had a 7 to an 8 out of 10 performance.
Do you think that's maybe what it was? People, journalists thinking Well, the winning team has to win.
Pretty much voting the MVP at a
We see that,
Super
don't we?
Bowl. Yeah, this all goes to the winning quarterback, doesn't it?
And just because
when was the last time that a non-winning player won the Lance Todd? Because the only other one I can remember was Sinfield in 05.
There's been a couple. Because I looked at this beforehand.
I think Robbie Paul did in '96.
Yeah,
as well.
I think Robbie Paul was the other one that I had in my head.
I would argue that, again, these are journalists, and just to put into context for me, you want to look at somebody like Minchella, who made 57 tackles, one of them a try-saving one on Sneed, better than Oughton's tackle.
No. Don't start,
But-
because that's where my big bite of the weekend came from.
It'd have been ironic if that was actual tackle 52 as well.
It would have been.
I was trying to get you to bite them, but you look at his performance as a captain and what he did and played the full game. He was like my number one.
I thought he was your number one.
So I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd got some votes, and I can see where you're coming from. But my point of this was, go watch the game back if you think that was a poor game by Mikey, because he was leading our team in a really mature way.
I don't think it was a poor game by Mikey. I think he was.
You have to play the role of
quieter
two
than
halfbacks for me.
Yeah, I've got it written down in my notes. I actually wrote down, where's May? Where's May? And then I've got a couple of things. One thing that I wanted to mention earlier was 73rd minute. You'd got Wire pinned 4 consecutive tackles and they were inside their 20. And you had so much momentum. And then Sneed pings a 20-40.
Yes.
Like,
Just from dummy
that's
half as
what
well,
I wanted
one
to
step.
mention earlier when no one gave me time.
That is an unbelievable piece of skill. One step out from dummy half, and he pings a 20-40. That's not like he's got the ball, he's managed to take a couple of steps and already have forward momentum. He's moving sideways, and then he's kicked that.
That's one of them moments where my
just
heart sank.
unreal.
That's probably the worst one.
I thought
where
that
it was game done.
In that minute, I thought Warrington are winning this. That's when I really, really thought Warrington are winning this. But in my opinion, your fitness is what won you that game.
It's something we've prided ourselves on, to be fair, and Peters has spoke about that quite a lot in his post matches. But the other player that stood out for me was Davis, and not just because he scored. You look at the work that he did, especially coming out of backfield with Sneed's kicking game, as we've mentioned all the way through this podcast. Davis actually carried for 241 metres off just 25 carries.
It was top for the game.
It was top for the game.
I noticed the kicks wasn't going to him much, was it? It was either Broadbent or Budgie.
And that's why.
And so he
because
was
of his
getting the
ability
next
to
play
bring it
after tackle one, wanted. But if he's that many metres from that, that's
There was
quite impressive.
targeting Budgie, who was doing incredibly well under the high ball, and then Davis was there to take one in against quite a tough sort of defence, really, because there was pinners in, so he deserves that.
We need to...
I know, I want to talk about the parade as well. Listen, I just want to mention...
Yeah, that's what I mean. We need to move on to the
Do you anything else
parade.
from the game before you want to talk about the parade? Craig?
Our discipline was absolutely superb for 71 minutes of that game. We gave away 2 penalties in the first 9 minutes.
Is that when Batchelor smashed Dufty in the face?
That one a penalty. Dufty shouldn't have put his face into Batchelor, should he?
Right.
To be honest, I think Rovers made Sneed look good, but
I agree.
yeah, try it with these ones.
Gonna get you a pair of black.
But
and
yeah,
white
our
ones.
discipline 2 penalties. I think there was 1 or 2 6-agains in there, but yeah, our discipline was superb because it had been easy to give away penalties when the game's
when
like
the
that,
game
but
finished, when you look at everything, even the stats point to how even it was. You're talking 79% completion rate for Rovers against 83 for Wire. 11 errors by us, 9 by them in very bad wet conditions. You're talking...
It felt a lot worse for us, I thought. Like, when you're watching it live, I thought that our inability to control the ball in wet weather was appalling. But then you watch it back and it's not actually as bad as what it seemed.
And then, so our ability, and similar point in that being, and again, similar carries to meters made and everything, but our ability to keep our discipline and then adding our defence, I agree, is what did it there.
And then the final one is we made more metres off less carries than what Warrington did. But again, coming out of backfield, you're always going to get more metres because you've got 15 to 20 before you're hitting your defensive line. So, but they're all positives and just wow.
Yeah, honestly, it was unbelievable. And for the last 2 minutes, going to the parade on Sunday, something you guys have experienced for whole, obviously you've been there, you've done that. It doesn't still feel real.
Ruined my dinner plans.
It was.
Where would you go and punch?
We were going to go to Minerva, and I know it's not like proper city centre, but I was
nearby.
like, yeah,
We was going to go out in town for tea, but
close enough.
I was like, nah, stop that.
obviously incredibly emotional after the game, and the feeling is still weird now. It doesn't feel right. There were a few things during the parade where it started to hit home, or where the emotion came over me again. I could shout out dozens of funny things the players said in the balcony. If you was there, you saw it, you loved it. The celebrations, the vibe was amazing. One that I want to talk about before Craig will talk about one for sure is something that didn't really hit me until we was watching it back on the big screen at the parade. We always talk about Jez and Mikey and Dean Hadley. Whole bred and born, was all players they've come across, FC rejects, all the banter that we've now won, right? The one that is getting overlooked for me is Jack Brown. Jack Brown's a player who I've often questioned his position in the team. Last year more than this year. This year he's really stepped up. He's played himself into our team and into our starting 17 for a lot of games. And Jack Brown used to stand in the East Stand. His parents stand near where I stand. He was the mascot that held James Webster's hand to come out in the game that got us promoted to Super League. Now, you talk about childhood dreams and where you want to go, and if you're a rugby fan, they don't get any bigger than what Jack Brown's just done this weekend. From standing in that East Stand to a non-Super League club and cheering your team on, to then lifting the Challenge Cup with them. And there was no wonder he couldn't speak on that balcony, he was that drunk. Because that must be unbelievable. It's unbelievable for anybody, but that must be unreal. And it just got me a little bit. I was like, I'm so happy and proud for him. It felt unreal.
Yeah, Mandy, his mum, she goes on Ravens' coaches with us, so all right, Mandy. And every time I've spoke to her about Jack and his position in the team and is he not getting frustrated, and she's always like, no, Jack knows what his role is. He's happy to do this role. He's absolutely loving it where he is. And everything that she said, because she could easily just turn around and go, oh, well, it's crap that he's not playing all the time. But she's like, no, he understands his role. He knows what he's meant to do. He knows what he's meant to do when he's in the team. He knows what he's meant to do when he's 18th man. This, that, and the other. And yeah, they're just wow, Jack Brown. But so this one. Sorry, it's got me right in the throat. That has. So obviously with
Less.
This is my softer side. I do have one, 6'2", 22 stone, but I do have one. And yes, I am only 22. Before you say out.
I'm not going to say anything.
No, you was. I could see it in your eyes.
I close one eye and yeah, you fit that. Yeah.
We spoke about him a few weeks ago. Craig Escript, lifelong Rovers fan, suffering with MND. I can't even speak. And just to see the look on his face, because I've seen his photos on Instagram. I didn't manage to see him at the game, but I've seen his photos that he'd put on, and he's just stood there in disbelief with tears in his eyes while his little boys are stood next to him and smiling, and his partner Alicia. And then he came out onto the balcony, and I've not seen him for a while, but to see the deterioration in him, but then to see the joy on his face when they offered him to lift that Challenge Cup, it was just...
I don't care what colour you are, what team you support, if you're black and white, red and white, blue and amber, whatever it is, cherry and white, that was amazing.
It was just...
I saw that and went, oh wow,
I've actually got something written down for that, and a little bit more tongue in cheek than what you've said, but he's the only, genuinely, I never met the guy, he's the only person out of this entire weekend that I'm happy for.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the fact that you've won it. I hate the fact that you two get the joy of it, and Dee gets the joy of it, and all the team get the joy of it, and all your East Stand scum get the joy of it. But next picture. I am so happy for Craig Escript to be able to witness that.
Yeah, and I was speaking with Brando from work, Dave Bannigan, and we have the same sort of relationship with Craig. We've known him from work and things like that, and I think Dave's probably about the same as me. He's a lot more toned up than what I am, but he's same height, same build sort of thing, and he was like, every time I've seen something, I just can't stop blubbering. So sorry to call you out on that, Dave, but I'm in there as well with you. But one thing he did say was he wants to ask Josh if he'll stop buying his Rover shirts from Build-A-Bear.
I fluctuate in size and weight quite a bit, and sometimes they're tight and sometimes they're not. We're going to wrap up. We've been ages. Jake's going to write and tell us how bad we've been. I just want to say thank you to everybody that listens and watches that made the effort to speak to me on Saturday and Sunday, because it was fantastic. Like, before the game, chatting, I love the pod, I can't wait. Even the banter, I can't wait for you to give it to the black and white, them two. Dean's the sly one that gives you little digs.
Apparently so, yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy's in your face. Even walking back from the parade, someone, I love the pod. Everybody, thank you for listening, thank you for speaking, whether it was, bumping into Steve or Cadell, who, seeing him afterwards was amazing, or Cookie, who said you were sly. I can't name everybody, I don't even know everybody who I spoke to. Please keep saying to us, please keep grabbing us. I absolutely loved it. I was actually a little bit shocked how many people, even though, all the Rovers fans were there, made the effort on Saturday and Sunday, so thank you.
Even I got collared at King's Cross.
Yeah, he
I was
did.
gonna say,
and I actually know that guy as well.
One lucky Rovers fan got to bump into Dean at King's Cross
I
on
was
his way back.
travelling back on Saturday morning. I was at a gig in London on Friday night, so I was travelling back on Saturday morning, waiting for my train when there was a trickle of Rovers fans coming into King's Cross. I was up on the balcony, anyone who knows King's Cross, waiting for my platform to come up on the screen. Staircase behind me with the toilets in the corner. I just, for some reason, just turned around. There was no shout of anything like that. I just turned around, and then this kid just clicked his fingers and pointed at my face. Bragging rights.
Yeah, so
Our last was like, do you know him? I was like, not a clue.
So further
Keep
on
your
from
head down.
that's a guy called Jack Hudson. Shout out to Jack. I also work with him, or he works in the same building as what I do. He's in a different team. But as I was talking to him, because he was sat just up from where I was sat, he went, "Oh, I saw one of the overall fans in King's Cross." I went, "Oh, that'll have been Dean." And I shouted out to him, bragging rights, and I was like, "How crazy is that?" It was sat near me, and he was like that. And then the other guy I want to give a shout out again. I didn't catch his name. He lives over the Pennines, somewhere near Burnley, from what I can remember. I'd had a few bud by this point. And he listens to our podcast, and he travels across for every home game. And then obviously he enjoys the Thursday and Friday night games that are over in Lancashire. So shout out to you. And the one thing I always say to people is when they go on about the listening and that they're loving it, I said, well, as long as people keep watching, we'll keep recording. That's what I say.
That's it.
So lucky that you don't have to do all the dodgy travelling back from the Thursday and Friday night games, isn't he?
Well, he does for the home games.
Yeah, I know, but
So I suppose really the last thing to say, quite disappointing, isn't it? We actually haven't won a trophy since Saturday afternoon.
fair enough. Right, Jake, Susan, Sandra, whatever you want to be called.
This week's episode is sponsored by Comscaff.
Commercial Scaffolding, or Comscaff, are a Hull-based company formed over 30 years ago.
They offer a safe and professional scaffolding service nationwide.
For services and enquiries, you can go to comscaff.co.uk or call 01482 782 181.
So, Josh, I'll let you say it because I think you're the one that manifested this last week. We've got one top level bit of news to share because we've wasted all our time talking about them.
Yeah, we have, and
Talking about what?
it was always going to happen, but not trying to claim credit, but it was us five, so yeah, you can thank us later. No, in absolutely fantastic news, with a little tinge of sadness to it as well, but Billy Boston is getting the knighthood. So if he was listening
Already has.
last week, he has now been knighted. It is Rugby League's first ever knighthood at 90 years old. Unfortunately, he does suffer with dementia, and he has been given the knighthood early, which is why it has now happened, as I've just been informed live on air. This is a man who has won 3 Challenge Cups. He was another black pioneer of our sport. Really was a driving force in getting people involved. But also just to finish on, because it's so well deserved, and I do hope that him, his family and all the fans of Rugby League, not just Wigan, can enjoy this. But the guy scored 478 tries in 487 matches. Doesn't matter what era you're playing.
That's
that
Ronaldo
is
stats.
unreal.
Second only to I can't remember the guy's name, but he's second all time top try scorer ever.
I think Radlinski described him today in an article I saw as the first hero of Wigan.
So he was the first. I know last week we mentioned Clive Sullivan was the first black player to captain any team. He was the first black player to play for Great Britain. Just madness. He's that well respected. He's got a statue in his hometown of Cardiff, a statue at Wigan, and a statue at Wembley.
He broke so many barriers, though, doesn't he? And it's nothing
Yeah.
more than he deserves. So,
And when you think he did it, I think he did his debut for Great Britain in 1954. And I know that people can go on and say, oh, yeah, why does it matter if he's black? Because nowadays, we'd like to think it done. But in 1954,
that's massive.
that's huge. You know, you could have been the best player in the world at anything in 1954, and someone would have found a way for not putting you in the squad. So,
Yeah.
huge news.
Congratulations.
Bit of a
Massive
congratulations.
Massive congrats, and if you want anything, text me. I'll get it down. We'll manifest it. We'll get you in it as well.
If you want a knighthood, tell us. We'll talk about it. But what we're going to talk about now is what's going on at Tribal this week. And I'm just going to let Susan press buttons, and you don't need to tell me what's on screen because everything's happening all on the same day. Friday 13th at 8 p.m, we have Hull versus Cass and Rovers versus Catalan. They're all everything that I'm going to talk about now is getting shown at Tribal. They both kick off at 8. Depending on how many fans are there, so it's a competition. Depending on how many Hull fans and Rovers fans are in Tribal, depends on where it gets shown. If there are more Hull fans, the Hull fan will get shown. The Hull game will get shown on the big screen. If there are more, shut up, stupid phone. If there are more Rovers fans, the Rovers game will get shown on the big screen. But then at 9 o'clock, there's an Oasis tribute called the Gallaghers. So you're only going to get the first half on the big screen. The Gallaghers are then going on stage at 9 o'clock. Whichever game's already playing upstairs will continue upstairs. Whichever game was on the big screen is going outside. So it's a proper muddle around.
The weather's supposed to be good though, so.
And it raining on Friday.
No. Wow.
It's sheltered anyway, innit? So it doesn't matter.
It's covered anyway. So Hull versus Castleford, Rovers versus Catalan, 8 o'clock kickoff, both getting shown at Tribal. 9 o'clock, the Gallaghers start playing their Oasis tribute. And for anyone that's a season ticket holder, don't forget to take your season pass because 15% off for any bill that's got food and drink on it. And that's it. Done.
Listeners' lounge then.
Also known as questions from the public.
As
I
Susan
don't think
tried
we're
to.
allowed to call it that.
So
What, questions
before we
from
get
the public?
into the listeners' lounge,
It's probably trademarked, innit? By that other podcast with that couple.
I don't know that they do that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I deeply apologise if I've offended anybody.
We don't care.
No, I don't.
so before we get into the questions, we did mention James mentioned last week is
Parasite.
the parasite, and he hadn't been in touch, and we're not getting into it, Craig. Before you start, we asked where he'd gone, but for you listeners and viewers, we are happy to announce he's okay.
He's alive. He's a
he
cockroach.
reached out.
Just can't kill him.
He reached out with a very, 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 very long and heartfelt message. But regardless of what the result was on Saturday, we hope it is another 6 months before he reaches out again. So, thanks, Callum. Go back into your shelter.
Please send more. Even if we don't read them out, I just like these blowing up that you've sent such long messages.
Just to point out how long it was, I read it, all of it, out loud to Rachel, because that's what I do. I just read stuff to her, and she's just like, what are you on about? She got to the end of this, and she was like,
She don't like it.
I don't even know what he even was on about, because it was that long. Like, yeah. I wrote essays at school that lasted less.
I love it.
So, anyway. But I
liked
also
it,
believe
to be honest.
that he sent some questions in,
He has.
which is
And
what we wanted. Not bloody...
So, we'll give him the...
Callum's Corner is back. And
No,
this
it's
time,
not.
It's not.
And
No,
this
it's not.
time it's personal.
It's not. I think we've outgrown Callum's Corner.
So, we'll give him the honour, shall we say, first question.
Yeah.
As a sport, are we too hooked on individual performances rather than team performances?
Yes and no. for me. Throughout a season, I'm just doing this off my head, by the way, because I don't know what any of these questions are. So for me, the prime example of where that question has probably come from is Mikey's performance at the weekend, which obviously Josh has spoken about. But for me,
I think it comes from Sneed's performance. Like how
Do you
people are. Yeah, how people are.
maybe it might be a comparison of both of them. But for me, like, no. Basically,
I think it's. I don't think it's just rugby league. I think it's any sport, and I think it's sometimes it's well deserved. Like in terms of Sneed, like you cannot watch that game and not talk about Sneed's performance. But then sometimes it is undeserved, where we get too much in a player's face, if you want to call it that, about when they have a bad performance. And I think because of the fact that Mikey was quieter, especially in attack, you have got these people coming out, like Josh has tried to put to bed tonight, that Mikey had a bad performance. I don't think he had a bad performance, but you'll always get opposition fans just trying to dog on another player, and it's great because it's Mikey and we love to do it. But no, I don't think we will. It is sport. It's all subjective. We're all entitled to it, and I think if you've got players that are standing out for good and bad reasons, you have to recognise it.
The only thing I'll say on it is I think part of that comes from the way our sport being quite small in its outside of the team. So the amount of journalists we have, the amount of people we have in commentary, we don't rotate very often, and they have a particular style which they focus on individual players. So you're always going to get that, particularly when you're watching the top teams or you're watching a big final. So Mikey gets undue attention and he has undue expectations. Sneed stepped up and outperformed his team, but when you watch it back, he had players around him that played 8 and 9 out of 10 performances. But we do that because that's what our commentators focus on. So I don't, as much as we laughed, it is a yes and no answer. But yeah, I think it's a fair question. I think yes, we do sometimes.
Yeah.
We also have a very prestigious trophy awarded at the end of the season called the Man of Steel.
Steve Prescott, Man of Steel.
Steve Prescott, Man of Steel.
And we have a Lance Todd that Sneed can cry into because our team won the game.
Anyway, when you've got something like the Man of Steel, you cannot do anything other than focus on individuals because it's an individual that wins it. So.
One thing I will say, we ain't as bad as the Americans are.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh no,
they
Jesus.
have their MVP at the end of a Super Bowl stood on a pedestal on his own, basically, with a team owner. And they're not celebrating what the team's done. They're celebrating what a coach and an owner and one player's done, basically. So we're not as bad as they are, but yes, it is a bit of a yes and no answer. We're probably going to crack on with 2 more. These are one
Shall I
that
shuffle them?
No, because I know what I'm
We
doing.
don't know who's going to pick
Yeah,
who, is it?
Tend them over and everything.
I know. Well, I didn't know why I did that. There's one that we are using them.
He's
ones.
absolutely rattled by our cup win, isn't he?
Yeah, done me right in, hasn't it? So, what does Sean Wayne need to do to give England the best chance of success in the Ashes? And that is from League Lover on X.
Leave his job and give it to somebody else.
Short and sweet.
Pick the best team, regardless.
Pick on form and not on name, which is England do it, rugby league, England do it, football. Yeah, England Rugby Union don't, and they've seen massive, massive benefits to that. They've picked players, even if they've been playing for like a side like they've come up in a bit in the last few seasons. I don't know those who follow Union, but Exeter Chiefs, they were like league, championship league, not so long back, and now they've come up and they're not far off the playoffs here and there. But picking players from them who are picked on form, that's where you get the win because they're already playing well. So for me, pick on form.
It's one thing he did against Samoa last year that really ticked me off. I don't care if George Williams is the captain. He was not the best 6 in that team last year, and he's not the best 6 in English 6 at least in the league this year. Mikey is. So Mikey Lewis, and it bloody pains me to say
You
it,
drank too much at the parade, mate.
but if you were picking an England team now, who would you have at 6?
Sneed and Lewis.
Yeah, But Sneed
Other
didn't.
way around, 6 and 7, but yeah, you know
But
what I mean.
and he also needs to, and because this is one thing that doesn't bother me, which I know bothers a lot of people. Best English 13. People are going to rib me for saying it. Victor Radley. I don't care where he was born. He's got English heritage. Put him in the goddamn shirt. Put him in the team.
Oh, he will be. He'll be.
I know he will be.
Yeah, as long as he's fit, he'll be there. I just, from my point of view, I hope he has got. He will be. He'll be working on the game plan. It has to be absolutely perfect to beat these, and still even that might not be enough to beat the Aussies, because I feel individually and as a team we've shown over years and years we are that far behind them. Along with what Craig said, pick the players on form. He has to get it absolutely bob on.
I know I made a jokey answer at first, but when we talk about needing a bit of an overhaul of what we do with International Rugby League, what we need to do if we're going to create a competitive team to play this Ashes series is we need camps throughout the season like we do in Rugby Union that have 40 and 50 players in that are potentials to make the England squad. So players have time to gel, to get to know each other, so we can pick out in training sessions what game style we've got, so that when a decision's made on game day or a squad's picked and it's, you know, we haven't picked Mikey, we're going with Williams, there's an explanation, understanding behind it, because he works better as a halfback with the 7, or he's better at linking up on the left hand side, or whatever it may be. But we don't do that, so we need an overhaul of the game as well. What he needs to do is he needs to be begging the RFL for that. When can I have these mini camps? What can I do?
It's not just the RFL. He needs to be begging the team.
Yeah, of course. He needs to be asking everybody.
Because I don't think... Because there's nothing in it for the teams, Thurkill, little FC, you know, if we've got a player that's due for international, for whoever, I don't know, SASA or whatever, is due for international, and Thurkill's like, get asked, will you release him? You don't have to. Will you release him? No. Why would I? I don't care if they win an international game. I'm thinking about the season. And that's the problem. The International Rugby League holds no power. And
Whereas in other sports it does.
Is it mandatory in football that if you're selected, you go to these camps?
yeah, by
Is
FIFA.
that why people like
By FIFA.
Unless
drop
you're
out?
injured.
Yeah,
Unless
you
you're
have
injured
to. You have to prove to FIFA or UEFA or whatever.
It's
Is
not
my
mandatory. It's not
understanding.
mandatory.
Is it not?
That's why players then put themselves on as injured, and that's why you get players saying like, he's carrying a knock, he's not in the team this week, things like that.
I always thought it was mandatory. in
I don't
football.
believe it's mandatory.
But anyway,
Right, one more. We got time for one more because we are cracking on, and this one caused a bit of a divide on Twitter yesterday.
I haven't seen what this was about.
oh mate, there was so
So
many
I've been in
bites
the
on
group,
Twitter.
so
It was a
Can't
great.
believe he's
it-
asking this.
Don't you want to ask, Josh?
I just don't see how we can answer it quickly.
I
Let's-
can.
go on.
I can. So I'll go first if you want. So Cadell or Cadell, I don't. Sorry
I
if I'm
feel bad
pronouncing.
even though I've now met him like a couple
You
of
met
times.
him a few. You sat with him at the derby or
You've-
behind him, didn't you?
Whoever's
Yeah,
written
just
this down has missed out a keyword.
Yes. This current Rovers team would beat the 16-17 FC team comfortably, he said.
Yeah, you missed
Now,
out the word comfortably. Whoever wrote
So I'll
it.
answer it. Comfortably, bullshit. The correct... If you'd have missed comfortably off, the answer is, what a game it would be.
yeah.
What a game. And we would have two teams fighting at the top end. I know there's a few people who have come out and said, yeah, but Hull lost 9 games one season. In my eyes, it was a stronger comp as a whole back then.
Well, you only played a handful of games to win the Challenge Cup, didn't you?
Yeah, same as you did.
There was only 16 teams in that year, weren't they?
No.
And we played the next round because Super League teams came in around early.
Who did you play that round against?
York.
Oh, right, cool. Good.
York,
cool,
who also won at Wembley on Saturday,
cool
so they're
stuff.
also
Oh, the
champions.
1895 Cup.
Who's also not won a trophy since Saturday afternoon. Do I need to flick this back?
We're not with major trophies, Josh. Major trophies.
Yeah, 1895 is not a major.
No,
trophy.
I just
The
think
Northern
personally,
Rail Cup. Stop
it's-
dissing on it.
it would be. We would have two teams at the top end of Super League, is what we want that.
The problem with this statement is, because you're right, comfortably was the wrong word.
Yeah.
Right? And
That's
that
what he wanted to put in for the bite. He wanted that for
it
the
would-
bite, I'm sure of it.
It would be incredibly competitive, I think that's fair to say. And I'm not surprised that the first thing people have jumped to, though, is you did lose 9 games that year.
Yeah.
And you didn't do anything else. You sort of fell off.
Didn't we get a semi-final of the playoffs?
Yeah, did you lose to Leeds in the semis?
Who went on to win it.
Sneed missed 2 kicks in the semi-final. Yeah, I remember. No, I researched this yesterday.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Sneed missed 2 kicks in the semi-final. People are going to say that, but it's so hard because it is 2 different eras. It really, even though it's only nearly
2
10
different
years ago.
styles of play as well.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just going to mention that.
I don't even know in my head how that game would go because it's so bizarre.
You play it one day, Rovers win. You play it a week later, Hull win. Do you know what I mean? That's how. And it won't be like Rovers winning by 20. It'd be like, oh, Rovers won by 2, and then Hull won by a drop goal the week after, and then Rovers won by a drop goal the week after. It'd be so tight, that game.
Kingston
Unbelievable.
Rovers.
Yeah.
Who have won at both Wembleys. Is that the one you're on about?
God, is that what you're coming out with now? Is that how desperate you've got to be? Won at both Wembleys.
Do we have a view? This is for all Dean Sly Diggs.
I'd love to know what Sly Diggs is on about as well.
How many Challenge Cups you win?
Sorry?
How many Challenge Cups you win?
We won on Saturday.
Oh, but you're not a 5-star club, though, are you?
Fucking hell. You can't even afford pixels in your screen. You can't be a 5-star club.
According to some of your fans, it don't count because it's a Mickey Mouse Cup.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, on Twitter, or X as it's now known.
What's
I've
the Mickey
seen
Mouse Cup?
The Challenge Cup.
Oh, any Hull FC fan that's trying to pull
I've
that
seen-
out. I am an Hull FC fan, and any Hull FC fan that's trying to pull that out of the bag is an idiot.
I've seen
It's
Leeds
the
fans
most-
on Twitter.
I would rather win the Challenge Cup than the Grand Final.
Not now, I won't.
Well, no, because
Wigan fans
it's one we haven't
especially.
won. Yeah,
Wigan fans, some Warrington fans. Now, I don't know if they're just doing it for bites and calling it a
definitely
Mickey
are.
Mouse Cup. But yeah,
We're back on social media and stupid comments, aren't we?
Yeah.
I was so annoyed at
So-
myself yesterday, by the way, because I read the rules, and I wanted to come out, didn't I? I wanted to come out and say, "Oh, you've won 2, but there's an asterisk next to it because he grounded the." And then I read the rules, and I can categorically say that I've read the rules till I'm blue in the face. And when you're a defending player, you don't ground the ball; you touch down, and the touchdown has to be deliberate.
He
And
wasn't intending to ground it.
No,
I
no.
don't
He
need to waste time.
fluffed it.
he's trying to get dead.
And
ones.
I was going to come out. I was going to compare it to Max Verstappen's first world title. I was going to go mental, one eye, and I was just
You was going to call it a hollow victory, weren't
yeah, I
you?
was gonna, yeah, and
Right, so
I do just finish that. I do wish I'd saved a comment I saw. There was Warrington fans online booting off about everything, and even when they were shown the rules, they were still arguing, and they were saying, "You robbed us of a grand final last year with a Budgie try, and you've robbed us today." And somebody came back with a comprehensive list of all the time Warrington have had the rub of the green, and it was like very detailed. It was like 2011 Challenge Cup semi-final, random play, I don't even know who it was, foot in touch, not given, and it kept going and going. There was like 10 examples where Warrington have made it to finals or won a final when rules went against them. I was like, that's really bothered you. And it wasn't even a Rovers fan. That was the best thing. It was like a Huddersfield fan that just couldn't take the rubbish.
So we need to get into a quick preview of both our games this weekend.
we've not even done that yet.
No, we
Jesus
haven't.
Christ.
Just try and leave like Jimmy did last week.
Real quick preview. I think both teams will win. There you go.
Bit more detailed on our point. We've had a bit of injury news this week, haven't we? You're really not interested this week, are you?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just don't want to talk about that because
I think these two are texting each other. They've been on the phones
They
all
have, haven't
night.
they? Yeah.
I thought I'd screenshotted something to read out.
too late now.
Turns
That
out,
email was way too long, so you're not doing anything.
turns out I hadn't anyway. So
Go on then, Dean. Our preview.
Price out for 10 weeks. I see it. I confirmed 8 to 10, and now the coach's son is out for another few weeks. But on the positive news, Amir Burrow and Kay Cust have been past fit. Amir did fracture his eye. Yes,
Yeah,
his
there's
eye
about a
had
crack in
yesterday.
his cheek.
Crack in his cheek, his eye. But the doctor says you can play on. Or in his words yesterday, crack on.
So I'm going to the members meeting thing with Richie Marler on Thursday. We got rid of, and I know it's a tough subject for anyone, any CEO, because the coach is the player's dad. But we got rid of Abdul because he couldn't get on the training pitch. Jed takes up a quarter space.
Quarter space, a large chunk of the cap, no doubt. And he's played a handful of games in the year he's been here.
I will be asking him on Thursday if we need to start being a bit more ruthless. And I know he's the coach's son, but we need to be a bit more ruthless because quota places are
this ain't under 14s, mate.
few and far between.
Don't care if he's the coach's son.
No, I know, but when you don't want to piss off the guy that's dragging us out from where we were at last year.
Business.
If you want to get back, if you want to, this is not to wind you up. If you want to go and win trophies like we did, and you want to get back there, and you want to start competing again, you have to be ruthless. You have to make decisions. And this, I'm not saying this is one of them right now. These are the tough questions you have to ask yourself. We made really tough decisions on players that fans in our stadium did not want to see go in the last 2 and 3 years.
I don't think any fan would complain if we let Jed go. The other thing off the back of that, because Jed's been injured for so long, is Connor Bailey's won his trophy now. Can we sign him early, please? Like, that'll be the other question.
I don't think he'd be
gonna
ready
ask.
to slot straight into a Super League team anyway. You'd be prepping him for next year, I reckon. But
Either way, I think he'd get some game time with the way that our second rows are going.
So no intention.
our second rows are going well.
Just to
Not on
I
the
want to
injury
ask
front.
about these injuries just because it's part of, if you don't mind.
Okay.
It's not a wind-up. 3 hamstring injuries,
Yeah, it's a concern.
right? Is that a concern? 1, accident. 2, coincidence. 3, what we're thinking about with strength and conditioning, maybe where you're training, maybe what training you're doing.
There was a reasoning given to me for yesterday because I'm part of the vice president association at LFC, and Amir Burrow and Kay Cuss were the guests last night, and they were talking. That question was brought up, and it was either Amir or Cuss said Price's injury was done. Personally, I think Jed's just crocked. Full stop. I think Jed's just crocked. Asiata has played a lot of minutes, and it was just
And
one
he's
of them
got
things
history.
for an older player. These things happen. With Price, that game, he pretty much ran 2 full-length pitch, 250 metres-ish. After getting off a plane, and he'd done all that in that heat, them conditions sometimes don't just go against you sometimes, and I think that was more unfortunate.
Yeah, I think we all worried when we signed Asiata. We all worried, when's he going to get injured again because of his record. And the Asiata one was just kind of like, it's happened. I was expecting it at some point. Jed, I think, has probably been available for about 10% of the games since he's signed for us. Seems as though he's got a history as well if you look back through his time over in Australia. The only one there that really concerns me is Price, because you start to think now, is that the first, or is this just going to be a one-off?
Hamstrings are a
Tricky little thing.
Yeah.
I know,
So-
'cause I've suffered with mine.
It is.
Cut mine off, didn't
It is our first home game in
Needed
2
elsewhere.
months.
they? No, actually, that's what they repaired my ACL with.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I have put down, and I said before the Catalan and the league game, I don't want to mark them as must wins because if we lose them two, the Cas game becomes a must win if for our playoff challenge. I've still got down here, we have to win. It's as simple as that. If we're going to secure ourselves in the playoff and as a playoff team, we have to start winning from home, and that has to start
Because
on
this will
Friday.
be, if on Friday you win, it'll be your first home win since.
Wigan at home last year in like
June, maybe.
June, July, yeah.
Yeah, so it has been a long time as well. And we spoke about the
we
mental
haven't played
aspect.
at home a lot.
No, we know
granted, but for
The mental aspect
like
of
I
that
said
as well.
to you guys, you have to win this final or it becomes mental. For us, we have to win at home in the next. Well, I say on Friday because your majority of fans are home fans.
I think that's fair.
They want to come to a game and win. Yes, we've seen the big turnaround this year, and we're all happy with how we're going and the progression we're making. But them fans need to see a win at home.
And it's not just that either. Like it's all right for the diehards that'll just keep going, keep buying the season tickets, just keep we're right. We keep losing at home, but you want to get more fans to go. We have to start winning from home.
You've got another offer on this week, haven't you, to go?
I think it's gone now, but I think you could have got an extra ticket for a £5 or 2 extra tickets for a
It's
£5.
not gone, has it?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's see.
We'll get onto that in a minute.
Okay, yeah. Oh, scene. Yeah, get it now. So
Oh, the penny drops.
you get onto that in your preview in a minute. Certain someone's available. If he's not too hungover. So
If any of them aren't.
it's part of the Hull and Proud week this week. It's an event that we've been doing for the last 10 years. Last night there was a quiz night at Tap House, which fans could attend. Tonight it was the Nando's takeover, where the players cook and fans go and eat. Tomorrow night it's Heritage Night, where it's at the university. Tomorrow night being Wednesday night, because we're recording on the Tuesday, and loads of old memorabilia, programmes, shirts, all that is on show. And on Thursday, the event that James is attending is the Q&A with Richie Marley. Jimmy, sorry.
Thank you.
Friday night, Cass at home, and then Saturday is I think it's a reserves derby, is it? At
Don't know.
Cot Tigers Ground,
Hilltop.
yeah. So it's a week-long event that FC we've done. I think it's the 10th year this year. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I still wouldn't trust a rugby player to cook me chicken though.
I don't think anyone's had food poisoning yet.
That's all you eat, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
chicken
is.
and rice.
but
Saturday
it's a
at
great,
Hilltop,
great event that the club are doing and carry on doing. So long may that continue. But yeah, back onto our game. Must win, I believe. I think with the squad that we've still got available, confident in that. Raps back to full back. Briscoe, Litton centre, and then you've got Zach and Ed in the second rows.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cuss back at 6, yeah.
Liam Watts should be back next week, I've heard, as well, against Salford. So it's a body. I don't think he's going to do any great shakes for us, but it just gives maybe a forward that could maybe give
extra chance
Eamon
to
a rest.
breathe.
I don't know, or a Knight a rest. I know it's Salford and you shouldn't take it for granted, but these players need to be
So the
managed.
question I was going to ask is the Price injury. Obviously, wish him all the best to get back as soon as possible, but it's going to be a period of time. Not quite so easy to move, Rapana back there. Do we maybe think about it's time for Moy to come back and get some game time?
Possibly, yeah.
That's where my head's
I
at.
think the natural replacement is Raps to go back there, but
Depends what he wants to do at centre, because you've got Cust coming back at 6, so he's got a choice, hasn't he? He can put Raps at centre and Moy at full back if he wants to give Moy the time and he wants to let Raps play at centre instead, which I think he is better at centre than he is at full back personally. Still think he's got a lot of work to do in terms of silly mistakes, silly decisions and stuff. But is Moy ready after that shaky start to the season? We don't know that. We're not there at training. We can't decide that. So it is an interesting call, and I guess we'll find out tomorrow when the teams are announced. That'll be Wednesday. Where he's going to go. If Moy's in the team, I think Moy starts.
I think Moy will be. He's been in the 21 for the last few weeks, but he's not had a sniff. So I think we're going to be waiting right down till kick off to get an inkling of where he's going to go, to be honest. But
yeah,
we'll see. Looking forward to it though. Back at home game and back seeing a game again. So yeah. You guys at home?
Yeah, it's a bit odd that we're both at home on a
Yeah,
Friday
it is a
night.
bit, isn't it?
I can't remember the last time that had happened, but
Real good planning by the RFL.
yeah, that supercomputer, not that super, it's just a computer now. But just quickly, really quickly, before we get onto our game, I did have something screenshotted. It was to do with when we was talking about social media. So, Betfred Challenge Cup page on X said, Mikey Lewis, you've just written yourself into the history books. A Warrington fan has replied and said, daylight robbery, Hull KR never played the ball once during the whole match. No way did they deserve to win
Who
that.
does?
I just thought, now you're really clutching at straws.
I don't think 12 out of 13 players on a pitch of every game for each team play the ball properly.
Yeah.
Watch any Super League game, watch your own team without blinkered glasses on, and tell me your players touch that ball with their foot every time.
Yeah. It's bollocks. It's not worth the airtime.
It's just made me laugh. I
Yeah,
just thought I'd
move
have
on.
to
Rovers
raise
versus
it, but-
Catalan.
But yeah, moving on to our game. I think me and Dean possibly spoke about it maybe last week. I don't know if it was on the pod or off it, but is it the perfect game for Rovers after a Challenge Cup final?
Yes, and I'll tell you for why. The only other two options would be Huddersfield or Salford, right? Huddersfield, who have been continuing that bit of improvement, some hiccups along the way, could come and give us a game. Wouldn't want them. Salford, playing all them youngsters on against a cup hangover, it could be a banana skin for us. Whereas,
No.
honestly, you never know with cup hangovers. You genuinely never do.
I think you could go up against Catalan or Salford this weekend and play your bloody under-14s and come away with a victory.
I mean, I'm predicting a victory, but I'm not predicting a big one. I'm still expecting a little bit of a hangover, and I'm expecting not massive changes, but I'm still expecting changes throughout the squad. I think people like Dorrough will probably get a starting spot. We know Mickey Mack's going to rest again. You're going to get Morg back in at fullback.
Avion, he was in the cup squad. Graham's son.
Leyland's likely going to get some more minutes now, especially with Mickey on. So I think you're going to see some changes for sure. And I don't know if people like Jack Brown that don't get the big minutes probably get some more.
You might see Batch maybe have a rest if Broadbent goes back into centre.
I
I think Burgess is probably still drunk, so
He's still in Empress, isn't he?
yeah, he's still in
So
Empress.
good.
Yeah,
Honestly, what a
Cigar
guy!
in his
What a
mouth.
guy! I don't think he put a t-shirt on from getting out the shower to travelling back to Hull. It was unreal. He just wasn't wearing.
have you
So-
watched that one yet?
Yeah, specifically washed it for it. I also think as well, lose my train of thought there, somebody else who might come back in. There's players that are a bit not quite on the periphery in the fact that they're part of our 21-man squad very often, but in the past they've been around. People like Zach Fishwick could be an time to bring them back in. He's probably only picked up 2 or 3 Super League appearances for us.
I think
Maybe time to get him
you
in.
don't want to cross that line where you're giving too many
No,
young kids,
definitely not.
but you don't want to burn out your older guys by just playing them because you need to play them.
You,
Well,
you want to
luckily,
be careful
because Jesse Sue has got off scot-free. We have a tough decision whether he plays or not or needs a rest.
Yeah, that was my next point. Took it away from me again.
I would probably
But no.
say the 2 people that I would definitely rest would probably be Warrior Hargreaves and Sue. I think they had a very tough weekend and a lot of work to get through against. I said to you at the beginning, didn't I? I said Vaughan and Warrior Hargreaves are just going at each other.
Good battle that.
It was a good battle. I think they could both do with a rest. Other than that, I wouldn't want, if I was a Rovers fan, to rest too many, because you're going up against a wounded Catalan, and we've all said a wounded animal is a dangerous animal, and they are going to bite back at some point.
And that'll happen with everyone, but I think your point's right in that maybe give Batch a rest. Broadbent goes into centre. Morg's back in the team regardless. He'll be chomping at the bit. We know Mickey Mack's resting, so we know Leyland's coming in. There's some straightforward swaps. I'm more talking about maybe a couple around the forwards. We maybe change up a bit and give people a rest. Nothing huge.
I think you'll go heavy on the forwards on the bench. I think you might see 4 forwards on the bench just because forwards maybe take a little bit longer to recover, and I'm guessing there's a lot of alcohol in them systems this week, especially early part of it.
So yeah, I think, like I said, it's looking at it, and we could possibly have played it. It is the perfect fixture for us. They obviously don't bring any fans. I'll bring a handful of fans, should I say, not to be disrespectful, but apparently 0 fans have travelled across for this game.
Would you?
Personally, well,
You've got to understand how they see it. Do you know we love going to Catalan? Because it's like a mini holiday. They do that as well. They go to the deep. They go for a walk. They do the fish trail. They go and see all the rats we've got up around Hull at the minute. You know, they usually
art
come
galleries, don't forget them. But yeah,
3 nil-ins in a row. You're going to leave France on a Friday night to come to potentially damp Hull, cold.
if you support your team, don't you?
Plus, they'll get to see a Challenge Cup parade, so it's nice.
They saw it,
was quite
2
recent.
years ago?
That is a point on that, though. I do expect Friday night will be incredible, apart from the rugby itself, because it will be that the Cups come home celebration, and I think there'll be quite a bit about it sort of before the game as well, and a little bit
I'd assume so.
I think that'll be quite nice
I would
as well.
expect it to be on show, like where the play, at the players' entrance and things
As
like
the
that. You're gonna have a
walkout,
lot
yeah.
of things played on the screen before the game, I reckon. So
Yeah, I reckon so. But yeah, I think I'm same as Josh. I think we'll win. It won't be as comfortable as what people may be expecting it to be, but I do still think we'll come away with a W.
Yeah, and apparently the cup will be in Craven Street for everyone going before the game, so that's where you'll be able to go and see where it's been dented and filled with beer.
Don't need to. Got one right here.
not
the
the
real
one.
cup will not be in Craven Street, believe me. You get you get the real one, or you don't actually get the real one.
No, that's in the RFL museum, I think.
like that.
Yeah, you
Oh,
get like
somewhere.
2
Replica ones.
replicas that you can use.
Yeah, because Lee dented one, didn't they, after 2023, but it wasn't the real one.
Yeah. No, the real one gets like bloody armed guard pretty much.
Yeah.
But
Right, should we jump on to predictions?
let's
Yeah,
go for
let's
it.
do it.
It's time to shine.
So as we've already alluded to, both full teams at home on a Friday night. I'll start with FC because it's alphabetical order. FC and Cass. I've gone for Hull by 26. I think it'll be a bit of a blowout.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a little bit shocked by that. I've got FC by 14.
FC by 10.
FC by 16.
And Susan has FC by 12, so I'm way out with
Wow.
compared to the rest of you.
I hope you're right.
So do I. I need the half point.
Oh yeah, you need the points now.
I know. Over the water then, to the east of Hull, as we've just spoken about. Catalans coming over. I've got Rovers by 14.
Rovers by 10.
Rovers 12.
I've got Rovers by 26.
Wow.
You're well out. I hope you're right. And Susan's got Rovers by 6. He thinks it's going to be tighter than...
It could be. It really could be. Maybe.
It could be. Absolutely could be. I'm not sure when this game is, but over to West Yorkshire, Huddersfield versus Wigan
Saturday.
on Saturday. Thank you, Dean. I can't see anything other than a massive Wigan win. Wigan 44.
I mean, I've got a big Wigan win. I've got Wigan by
I'm the
26.
same. Yeah, Wigan 26.
I got Wigan by 20.
And Susan has Wigan by 30. Still in West Yorkshire, but slightly more east. Leeds versus Warrington. I don't think Warrington recover this week. I think they're going to be very, very tired this week.
And damaged, 'cause
And
Dirty
damaged.
Bachelor breaking someone.
That's it. Yeah, no Duffy will be playing. I wouldn't have thought. Serves him right for putting it in Batch's face, doesn't it? I've got Leeds by 8.
Leeds by 14.
Leeds by 22.
Leeds by 12.
And Susan has Leeds by 6. I'm not sure where this is geographically. I think it's even further east. But Wakefield versus Lee. Is it just? Oh, well, I got it right then. Wakefield versus Lee over at the Accountant Stadium,
DIY
whatever it's
kitchens,
called
isn't
now. Or that one.
Something like that.
They all changed the
We
name.
should really study this because, like, I know you jokingly call our stadium what it used to be called, but I think we should probably just call them the right thing.
We would if we knew the names.
If they didn't change them every
Bellevue.
other week,
Bellevue.
we'll call it Bellevue.
On
For-
Sunday.
For the purists, we've talked a lot about the
What's
purists.
wrong with calling yours Hull City Stadium? That's what it is.
No, because
No.
you called it by the old sponsor's name last week, and I think the new sponsor might get really peed off about that.
And
It's
I'm
a
sure
circle,
I'll be
isn't it?
really bothered.
Right, Wakey
in
v
a
Lee.
circle. Wakey Lee over at Bellevue we'll go with. I've got Wakefield by 8. I think it'll be a really good game.
I've also got Wakefield by 8.
Game of the weekend for me, Wakey by 2.
Ooh, hello.
Wakey by 6.
Well, we're all within the same ballpark because Susan's, with the winning margin, is gone for Lee by 8.
Ooh.
So yeah. And then I know where this one is. This one's over the Pennines. Just outside of Manchester. St Helens against Salford at Salford. I recovered it well. I've gone for St Helens by 32. I think it'll be a blowout.
Saints by 26.
Saints 38.
Saints 40.
And Susan has gone for Salford. No, he hasn't really. He's gone for Saints by 36. So apart from the league game, we're all across the board. It'll just be winning margins.
Well,
It's back.
I know. It's
Look how
a lot
giddy I
riding
am.
on this for you now, isn't they?
Why?
You're bottom.
Am I? No, I'm not.
Technically, yeah.
Who
Because-
picked Rovers to win the cup and got an extra 5
Oh, they
points
don't
at the
count.
weekend?
They're not on Super Brew, so it doesn't count.
So, and I want to point out to the viewers as well that Craig has sworn blind that if he loses, he will not wear a Hull FC shirt.
I will not. Is one thing you will never, ever, 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 ever see me
Got to
do.
play the game.
Nope.
So
I'll forfeit my place on the pod if I have to. I am not wearing an Hull shirt.
I want viewers to message in on YouTube, on Twitter, and all that sort of stuff. If,
On X, please. Use its proper name.
oh,
on
yeah,
X.
sorry. Yeah, on,
sponsors will go
Sponsors
mad.
won't be happy.
On X.
Elon will not be happy. He's already had a bad week.
what would you ask him to do then? If he's not willing to, what what should we do?
Actually,
Should he do a forfeit for not doing the forfeit?
why don't the listeners and viewers reach out and give us what ideas they'd come up with for a forfeit for all of us? Not specifically.
Yeah, not saying we're going to do it, but what
Yeah.
would you do if it was your
Yeah.
choice? Because we might pick one of them. So on that note, thanks again to Comscaf for sponsoring the episode and to Tribal for hosting us at this green screen. Yeah, from me,
I
Have you got
presume.
one?
No, I'm just asking. I presume that last year, when we were so gracious in defeat, we came back from the grand final.
You did?
We came to record immediately, and you absolutely tried to kill us at the end by playing a silly song that you can no longer sing, something about 1985.
Since Saturday afternoon.
So I'm presuming that the outro to this one will be since 2017, and you're going to play that for us.
It's not got the same ring to
it's
it,
not
mate.
got a ring to it. I thought you guys were singing since 2025 anyway.
We've been singing all sorts, mate.
Yeah, fair,
if you think
fair.
the place still ain't sobered up, neither have we.
Is that from the songbook you was all given? You know, with all
Yeah,
the lyrics
yeah.
on? Yeah.
Wow.
That was on
That's
the
the
next
slide
page, that
digs he
one.
must have been on about.
Yeah, you're
There
so
we go.
nasty.
Yeah.
God.
Anyways,
Right, anyway.
from
all
the
done.
table-topping Challenge Cup winning Robins and our neighbours,
Vegas bound.
Vegas bound.
and the little brother from over the water.
You might have heard of them. They did something about 10 years ago.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.
See you, bye.
Can have that one.